This week's Lion's Pride Tavern talks about the new Legion expansion, class halls, artifact weapons, questing zones, and a few tips and tricks to help you out. Hey everybody, sit down around the hearth, grab a frosty mug of ale. Welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern, where we discuss all things Azeroth. This week's episode is brought to you by Brewfest, where not only dwarves get simulated drunk. Coming September 20th to a major city near you. I am your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. This week has been very exciting. The Legion expansion is live. In this episode, we will be talking briefly about our experiences raiding in Draenor, and then we'll be getting right in to the rollout of Legion. Let's jump straight in. Today we have Joe Bowie.
Hi, Joe Bowie. I play a Worgen Fire Mage.
We also have today Lorelei.
Hello, I'm your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
And we also have Epistle.
Hello, I play a Draenor Protection Paladin. I'm also Canadian, eh?
We also have a very special guest, Tappuccino.
Hello everyone, I'm Tappuccino. I play a Night Elf Resto Druid.
All right, so beginning right off, we're going to talk to Tappuccino about her background in playing World of Warcraft. How long have you played World of Warcraft? Since what expansion?
I started playing World of Warcraft right before Wrath of the Lich King came out. 8 years ago, I was listening to my boss and fellow colleague talking about World of Warcraft all the time, and I thought it sounded really cool, so I finally decided to try it, and there was no looking back. I've been playing ever since, and I love it.
So how did you come to find this raid group?
So ever since I started playing and getting interested in raiding, I could never find a raid group that I liked. We were just not progressing well, or people wouldn't show up. And then a friend of mine that I was in a guild with had talked about this raid group. So one day I asked for an invite, I received it, and I think I've been playing with you guys ever since. It's been over a year now, this past last July.
Yeah, and you do a great job. She's one of our top-ranking healers for our raid group too. So, Tap, we were questing the other day together as a big group because there's no raids to do, and we were doing a quest, something about finding Ethel, and you sang us a little song. Can you sing that for us again?
Okay, if you really want to torture your listeners, it's just a part of a song by Alice Cooper called Cold Ethel, and the quest reminded me of it, so I started to say, if I live till 97, you'll still be living in refrigerator heaven. You're cold, you're ice, cold Ethel, you're my paradise. Ow! That was
Nice,
it.
thank you. Yes, that was so good. That was right before the bobsled ride, which you can catch that on our YouTube channel. There's a bobsled ride. All right, let's start off with older content first before we jump into our Legion expansion. What did you like about Draenor raiding? Lorelei?
I really liked all the raids in this last expansion. I didn't think they were that hard to learn. And we got through them very quickly. It was just a matter of you had to be very coordinated in this past expansion.
Compared to other raids in past expansions?
Yeah, like in the Pandarian ones, you really had to really be thinking on your feet a lot with the different raids in that expansion. The ones in this last expansion seemed to be very easy to understand and what to do. It was just more a matter of what I didn't like about them.
Okay, well, we'll ask that question next. Joe Bowie, what did you think?
I really like how they presented the 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 raids themselves, like the raid bosses, and how they would come in, and there was a little bit more like talking and acting in this one um, than I had seen in some of the previous ones. I mean, sure, there was some voice acting in plenty of the old raids, but it just seemed a little bit more dynamic in this one than in some of the former ones.
Okay, yeah. Epistle?
Yeah, I'd agree with Joe Bowie on that one. I've actually taken some acting courses as well, and so when you see people always consistently playing over the top characters in Warcraft, I tend to try to just ignore that. But didn't feel like I needed to do that with Draenor, which is, or at least not as much with Draenor. I'm actually happy about the expansion that I think they've even improved further since then. But yeah, that's definitely been a really good thing. The other thing I'd say to Lorelai's point about it being easy is I think they made the learning curve easy. So you could go in an LFR, you could figure out how to do the fights, and then they'd get more complex as you went into other rating opportunities. So I really like that. I do hope they find a way to make the scaling up to Mythic a little clearer for people because I'm kind of restless to go a little bit further, but I think it was still you still got a sense that you got to experience all the content in the expansion.
How about you, Tapagino?
Um, Draenor raiding was actually my first experience being able to be in a raid group for the whole thing, going from start to finish. So in that sense, it was a very great experience. I really enjoyed it. I really liked, um, the camaraderie and stuff as far as that goes. I also liked with Draenor the challenge and like Joe Bowie and you guys were saying, just the interaction with the bosses and with the characters was pretty neat. It made you feel like you're really there and you're really taking on these guys, or you can pretend anyway. So I really like that about it.
All right, so we'll follow up with you. What was your favorite raid boss and why?
My favorite raid boss was Kilrog, and the reason why is because it was pretty cool to get the follower. I liked the mechanics in it, I liked that you had to be on your toes. I know you did with a lot of the bosses, but in particular, it was just a lot of fun going into the runes there, and getting Ariok there at that time was just fantastic. It was a great achievement, or felt like a great achievement.
How about you, Epistle? What was your favorite raid boss?
I liked, for the same reasons as Tap, I actually liked Zul'Arak because as a tank, it's always fun to have both the boss to worry about and then an ad or multiple ads, and then also have to watch where your feet are. I like the complexity of that fight.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Joe Bowie.
I'd have to go. I'd have to go with Manaroth. I really liked the Manaroth fight. Um, I I liked how it felt very like one open air, and and I liked how the boss progressed. From initially from a pile of bones up into this massive creature that you're fighting, and the taunting that he was receiving from Gul'dan during the fight. As we continued to beat up on Manaroth, Gul'dan would tease Manaroth a little bit about it, and I just thought it was a fun fight and a pretty interesting one.
And Lorelai.
My favorite actually was Comrock. I just like the different stages that you had to go through, and I didn't enjoy him in the beginning, but as you figured the fight out, I just really enjoyed that fight the most.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. I liked it as a hunter because there were more things to do as DPS than just stand there and do damage. You had to run around and herd the runes to the center of the room to have them all collide. You had to watch out for the big bubbles coming out of all the pools. Yeah, that's been my favorite too. So, all right, so on to the really good question. What did you dislike about Draenor rating? And we'll start off with Lorelei.
Mostly it was just aspects of certain fights. I really just kind of overall liked the rating this time. I didn't like the Zool fight at all. That was my biggest headache, and maybe it was as a DPS, it was a big headache because I felt it was, well, we can't come up with a really cool strategy, so we'll just throw everything that we can think of in the fight. You know, all the stuff on the floor, all the ads, the voids, the this, watch out for that. And to me, it was just too much of having to, oh, I got to take a step, I can't attack, I have to move, I can't attack. For a DPS, that was a really hard fight.
Yeah, I can understand that. Joe Bowie.
Well, before I talk about my most disliked thing about Draenor rating, I have to throw a special shout out to the Hans and Franz from Blackrock Foundry because I thought that was a hilariously acted boss fight. I really enjoyed the acting in that one as well. But as to what I disliked, I didn't like the way oftentimes there are bosses that are like a check, like a DPS check or a mechanics check or gear check kind of thing in the raid. And it felt like in at least Hellfire Citadel, some of the bosses seemed a little out of place, like excessively difficult for where they were in the lineup as far as progression through the raid. Like Gorfiend seemed a little too difficult in his place there, like he should have been maybe further on or in a different spot. So I kind of felt like the difficulty, and although you could choose like which boss you wanted to go to once you got past one of those checkpoint bosses, I felt that sometimes the checkpoint bosses were maybe a little bit out of place as far as their difficulty level.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. I think as you go forward getting to the top boss, it should be getting more difficult, where they seem to have thrown in a couple difficult ones right in the middle, and then the next boss you hit, it was like, well, that was just a pinata. How about Tappuccino? What did you not like about the raids?
I guess the big thing for me was it was just so dark. It was dark and dreary, but I guess that's the content, you know. But I can't say I didn't like too much about it. Yeah, just being dark, and I think especially in LFR where people would just like pull everything, and so that might be more of a statement about LFR than about the dungeons in the first place. But
I was going to say
for the
LFR
raids,
is not real raiding anyway.
yeah, that is true.
Epistle, what did you not like?
I was actually just thinking probably the reason Tap loves the rainbows toy so much is adds a little bit of lightness to the raids. It is kind of funny because as Lorelei was talking, I was thinking about how much, while I like the Zularak fight, Cormorant and Tectus, which have the same level of kind of chaos, I really found frustrating. So I don't know why I liked one over the other. Makes me kind of wonder why, or if some guilds do better on some fights than others, if just the personalities are better suited for, chaos or cranking out the DPS or moving on the fly. Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how different rating groups do on that. But the big dislike I think will come as no surprise because I was frequently complaining in raid chat whatever we had to do high council. I was the tank that got Dia, and I did the Dia dance, which as a tank means you walk somewhere, you face the boss, and now you pretend it's a target dummy for the next 5 minutes of the fight. It was all about just practicing your mitigation and interrupting, and that was about it.
I can understand that.
Oh,
Yeah,
if I can add about a boss I really, really did not like, I would say Iron Reaver, because as a healer, trying to heal everybody, running in 20 different directions, and with crap all over the place was not easy. And she seemed to really like me too, which I
It
didn't
didn't
like.
help that rejuvenation had been the mana cost had gone up so much too. Because when I used to do a druid healer, I'd love to throw rejuves on everybody, but if it's too expensive, it makes it very difficult to have a running fight like that one.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. What did you dislike the most? Or which boss did you dislike the most and why? So we've got Tap's vote.
Oh, I thought that was part of the same question, but I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Epistle, what was the boss that you didn't like? Well, you already said that too. You didn't like
I
Council.
did, yeah. Dia.
All right, well, we'll just skip you two. We'll go straight to Lorelei.
Oh, I think I said mine too. I really dislike Zool on a DPS. Now, on my ranged, I didn't mind it so much because I didn't have to be up there underneath everything trying to see if I've got purple or blue or a little swirly or who's coming up. I actually didn't mind it as much. But yeah, Zool, I hate those fights where it's here's a little confined space and we're going to throw out everything we have in the game and try to stay alive.
Did I already ask this question?
I put
No.
that in there myself because for me it wasn't an overall thing about the raids I didn't like. It was that one. There's always one boss that you just can't stand.
Oh yeah, my in the previous expansion it was Thok. I couldn't stand that dinosaur.
Oh, see, I really liked him.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed hearing Thafford getting upset at that dragon. No, dinosaur.
We're full of it today. All right, so Joe Bowie.
I'd have to say, going all the way back to Heimal, Brackenspore. I didn't like the Brackenspore fight. It was okay. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of dynamics, but the thing is I always got stuck with the flamethrower, and I'm running around the room and trying to spray down the creep that was coming across the floor, and I just didn't like that mechanic. Um, it it didn't seem fun to me that was the effective
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
on the
that's
rage timer.
yeah, the creep was essentially a rage timer, and I had to like run around and just flamethrow, and I had to like turn it on and off constantly, or it would run out. Now, I just didn't like that fight at all, Brackenspore. So yeah.
yeah. Sometimes those are frustrating fights when you need somebody who's got a specialized, role in the fight. That can be very frustrating. I'm very glad, for example, I never had to worry about tanking. What was that? Socrathar. I never had to be the off tank on Socrathar because that would have driven me bonkers. Because you can wipe the whole raid if you don't do that roll right.
Yeah, when you get into the big robot.
I am glad that has never been my role.
Well, that's why I enjoy this panel of people that we have because we have all different aspects of, we have a melee DPS, we have a tank, we have a range DPS, and then guest healers and so on and so forth. We really get to see all the different roles because I did a lot of auxiliary roles like Joe Bowie did. I'd always have the flamethrower. I'd be the one running around, gathering the runes up and all the when the artillery pieces came in on the second boss, the very first boss in Hellfire Citadel, running over and getting the artillery and then running the boxes up to our artillery pieces. So it made it a little different, which is why I really liked our alt night raid because then I would change personas and go to healing and make other people do those things and really watch the struggle people have trying to do those utilities, where you got some people that really know what they're doing on those utilities, and it makes the fight a lot smoother. But when you don't, man, it can really just wreck the whole group.
And you feel the pressure when you're in that role.
Yeah, I'd have to say going back to, I think it's been a while, back in Heimal, I think it was Korog that we had to do, that where you and I had to pass we would run around the circle passing back and forth this one debuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually kind of enjoyed that because like everybody else was like busy fighting the boss, and we were fighting the boss too. But we were coordinating, running around, passing that back and forth, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, playing with the hot potato.
That's what I like about having my balance off spec too. Being able to do something different, like you said with the alt runs, using a different character or something, getting to do those types of things I don't usually get to do as a healer.
Well, now Draenor is in the past now. We're now looking forward to the future content, which is the Legion invasion. So the Legion expansion is live as of last Tuesday, August 30th. I'm thinking it was the smoothest launch I've ever seen from Blizzard, but compared to the other X packs. So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think that way too, or am I just dreaming? Joe Bowie?
This, in my opinion, was absolutely the smoothest rollout of an expansion. I'm on a massive server, Storm Rage, and like when I think back to like when Draenor was released, I think I spent the first week mostly in the queue. And then when I would get in, the questing was like horrible because there was 5,000 people standing around the quest giver, and the frame rates would drop to next to nothing, and it was just a mess. And in this one, I didn't experience anything like that. I got the queue a little bit. I think I spent a grand total of like 40 minutes in the queue for the entire rollout, and I haven't seen it for most of the week. There was not clumping up of players anywhere. Like I didn't run into a mass of people standing around any NPC trying to get a quest or complete a quest or progress or any of that stuff. It was really, really smooth, and I really liked the rollout on this one.
How about Tappuccino? What did you think?
Oh, I totally agree with Joe Bowie. This has just been pretty much seamless. Getting quests, being able to do them, not having to worry about, too many mobs like killing you so that you can't even like move. But there's still enough for everybody to be able to get what they need. So I think it's been a really great, best Blizzard's done, a lot of fun, beautiful graphics. It's just been a really, really good experience.
Epistle, what's your opinion?
Yeah, one of the things that we don't have to worry about, for example, is insane respawn rates, which were a thing of the past. You'd kill a mob and it would respawn on top of you and you'd be fried. I've had a couple situations that reminded me of that today, but it actually hasn't happened for the whole rollout, which is amazing. I've had no problems getting in and no lag issues. I think maybe once or twice I've had some minor technical glitches, but they are nothing like Burning Crusades or any other expansion after that. So they've really, from a technological standpoint, I think solved so many problems and made it a really smooth transition.
How about Lorelei?
Oh, I feel the same way. I think what they did this time was almost brilliant, with being able to start in different areas so that you could spread everything out. I've not had any problem waiting for anything to respawn, and if there's a mini boss out there that you need to kill and you couldn't do it yourself, there was maybe 2 or 3 people that needed to kill it too, so you always had somebody out there that you could help that with. Also, being able to tag things. If somebody else is killing it, just go in there and you can tag it, help them out, and you all get credit for it. So I think that was the best that I've ever seen a new expansion come out with.
Yeah, that tagging has been really helpful. I've enjoyed that many times. I've just got there at the last minute, thrown an Avenger's Shield on, and got credit for a last second contribution to a boss kill.
And in addition to that, the way that they scale the creatures to each individual person. So like if a 102 level character is fighting something and you're 110, it's equally challenging for both of those people, and everybody can jump in. It's not like in previous expansions where if you were fighting a level 98 creature and somebody comes running along who's level 92, they really can't get involved too much because they'll get killed right away, and it didn't work that way in this expansion because of the whole way they set up the zones for leveling.
Well, and I think from a technical aspect, that was probably one of the best things they could have done because, as you know, when Draenor came out, we all had to run to the portal. We all had to, I mean, everybody's waiting for that portal. 3, 2, 1, the portal opens, and boom, the server crashes. Where this one, you started off, you get your class hall map, and then you pick the area you want to go questing in, and there was, 6 different quest areas to choose from. So the whole population isn't just confined to one spot. And I think
Well, yeah.
from a technical aspect, that's probably what helped the biggest.
The class halls are part of that, so you didn't have to go right onto the new maps. You could do other kind of preparatory things. You could check in with, if you wanted to develop some of your professions, you could do that too. So there wasn't any of this, nothing started until you went through the portal nonsense, which creates that problem.
I think one of the things that really helped with that was actually, as much as people complain about them, the garrisons in Draenor, that they had to work out a whole new system for having people in their own instances. And in this one, instead of going into a starting area, which was essentially, gathering your artifact weapon, in this one, they put us in our own instances so that we could all go and do it by ourselves without a ton of people all standing around with us while we're on this very personal quest. And I thought that was really cool tech to have introduced us into Legion.
And even as as you level and the stuff you're fighting gets harder as you go along, so it's always going to stay challenging. You don't have to feel like, oh, it's only going to take me 5 minutes to do this quest because I'm so much higher than the actual quest itself. So I think we'll be able to have fun for a lot longer. The excitement will still last longer through the expansion.
Well, and you've been able to also dish out your own fun in a sense. So people I know have leveled differently. For myself, I decided I was going to go to one zone and cover it thoroughly. I'd check every little nook and cranny, I'd do the explorations, I'd do every quest I could possibly find or think of before moving on to the new zone, knowing that that was totally okay. I had alts who were going to come and explore the other areas, and so it meant I could take what would have been a kind of a rushed experience on one tune to be a more thoroughly enjoyable one, because you still get the benefits, right, from leveling in that zone. It's not like you have to leave as soon as you reach a level.
So let's go jump right into our class halls, because we have, between us, we have me as a hunter, Jobuya as a mage, Lorelei as a warrior, Epistle as a paladin, and Tappuccino as a druid. We all have different class halls. They all seem to operate just a little differently. Epistle, what did you think of your class hall and where it's at? How's it running for you?
It was a bit awkward getting out here. So you have to go from Dalran, take the portal, where does that drop you in? The old location for Dalran. And so you have to be ready to fall. So you're in the Dalran crater. And then you have to fly out to Light's Hope Chapel. I don't mind going back to Eastern Plaguelands once. That was cool. But it took me far too long to realize that I had a portal from Dalaran in Light's Hope Chapel that was a two-way portal. So I had to fly out 3 or 4 times, and it wasn't until Worgen said, when you go through the portal, just look behind you, see if there's a return portal, and I felt kind of silly. But yeah, other than that hassle, it was a surreal experience when I first get there, because everyone knows who's quested in the area what Light's Hope Chapel's like. You walk into this old, tiny little building, and then there's a secret door in the floor, which goes from old-style graphics into some really high-end, fancy stuff as soon as you go down this ramp. And that was a bit jarring for me, because it really drew attention to the change between old design and this really fancy, schmancy new stuff. But after first impressions, it's been fun to play with the artifact weapon, which I think everybody's been doing that in their own way. The quest lines were fairly simple, fairly straightforward, and I've enjoyed those. The part I like the best, though, is that as soon as I hit 109, a number of quests showed up. So I now have a bunch of pally quests to follow up on, which is kind of, I'm saving them for later. I'm just waiting till I hit 100 and then follow up on those.
You mean 110?
Because I always feel like there's this, as soon as you hit 100, it sometimes
110.
in the past has kind of opened up to now what do I do? So I'm putting a few of those things aside as to-dos once I hit 110.
Tappuccino, what's your thoughts on your class hall?
I love my class hall. As Epistle was saying, I'm very fond of the rainbow toy. The class hall for the Night Elf is the Emerald Dreamway. We're very big with nature and communing with the elements and such. So our class hall is like this big open area with trees and tree ants everywhere and rivers and lily pads. It's really, really nice. Um, I really enjoy it being here. Kind of relaxes me, but it can get a little, confusing just to get used to where everything is. Um, we have a special place we go for our weapon where our tree grows as our weapon gets more powerful. That's where we would do our element, I mean our runes and such. So, or relics. I'm sorry, relics and such. So it's pretty neat. I really like it. We have portals and stones, so it's easy to get around. We just can port in with our stone and be here in seconds. So, after hearing other people, I can really appreciate that now too.
Yeah, leave it to the night elves to have something simple.
I think I have like 5 stones between Moonglade and Dalaran and Dreamwalk, my Garrison, and my Healthstone, or Hearthstone rather.
Yeah, but I'm sure you don't have as many portals as Joe Bowie does. So, Joe Bowie, give us your rendition.
Well, the Hall of the Guardian is the mage class hall, and I gotta say, it's awesome. It's packed full of really interesting magical gadgets and little things. There's all sorts of nice little touches throughout the entire class hall. Um, it's of course very easy to get to for me. All I have to do is take a portal, and I can teleport straight away into it. In fact, I don't even know if I can. I don't think I can walk in. I don't know. Maybe I can. Maybe I just have never bothered because I don't have a need for it. And
Mages.
yeah, and then as you can do the class hall upgrades, one of them that was available for me was portals to all of the different Broken Isle zones. And so that's really, really nice. And those portals put me in pretty convenient spots, like usually way up on top of a mountain or somewhere where I can slow fall and hop on a mountain and effectively fly partway across the zone. For as far as transportation purposes, it's incredible. Um, it's really a pretty place. There's like, I mean, they did a really nice job uh, modeling it, and I don't know um, who is like I assume it's Khadgar for everybody else's class hall. Is that right, or do you guys have someone else who's kind of guiding things?
We have
Uh,
Khadgar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it was maybe it's just because he's also a mage, so I feel a particular kinship with Khadgar. Um, but it's cool having him in here and like doing stuff with him, and there's like pictures on the walls with eyeballs that move around and look around at people, and there's brooms that are enchanted that are going around sweeping up the guild hall or the class hall rather.
So, I'm
Eh,
thinking like a Hogwarts type area?
It is very Hogwarts. Like the library, there are flying books going all over the place in there. There's all sorts of relics. There's like magical devices that are sitting up on shelves and stuff. It's very, very cool.
So one
Um,
could say Jabui is kind of feeling of the same cast as Khadgar.
yeah, yeah. Essentially, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it feels. And all in all, the questing for it has been pretty cool. Um, I liked the story that I've had so far in the Mage Class Hall. Um, I like the way there's been some items that I've gone out in the world and found and brought back here and then interacted with, and then seen some cool like backstory um, about the game itself that was involved with it. It overall, it's been a pretty dynamic, pretty interesting experience with the class halls, much more than garrisons, which were nice, but I liked garrisons. Uh, but the class hall is way cooler.
Garrisons were more static and more standalone. So yeah, I see your point there.
Well, it's also interesting to see Horde around too. So, you're seeing both factions kind of working together, not killing each other.
Yeah, yeah, I like that aspect. How about Lorelei? What's the warrior class hall like?
Ours is Skyhold, and it's way up in the sky. So you go to Dalaran, and you have to use your action button, and it flips you up in the air. Odin is in charge of our class hall, which I find strange because I think he becomes one of the bosses in a raid that we have to go after. Um, I think it's very listening to your class halls. I think ours is rather plain. You have different platforms that you check your uh, not your followers, your champions that you want to get, and your forge. We have a little hall where you pick up your class quests, but it's very static in there. That there are people just standing at the table that will give you a quest. I did the paladin one this morning on my alt, and I agree with Epistle. That one is fabulous. I was like, oh, this is my favorite one so far.
It's really gorgeous inside, though, but it sounds
Beautiful.
like I want to look at the other ones. They seem a little more fun to be in.
Oh yeah, getting out of Skyhold it kind of threw me at first because you talk to a Valkyr, and you get a choice of where you want to go. You can. It's almost like a little portal to each place that you visited, and then you get shoved out of Skyhold through the moon door. If you're thinking of Game of Thrones, and it was like, oh my God,
Oh, nice.
I'm falling out of my class hall. I'm gonna die, and then you land on the ground. So that was really kind of cool. I like that part of it a lot.
Gotta be tough to be a warrior. Or
They
be a
just
tough.
kick you. They just shove you right. But it was interesting was when I'm in a fight and I'm getting really low on health, a Valkyr comes down, and I didn't notice before, but she actually gives you a little bit of healing and helps you out. So I thought, oh, that was pretty neat.
It sounds to me like from your description that it's very like militaristic, like step up to the table and get your assignment, soldier. At the warrior
Yeah,
place.
it's just like, well, this is supposed to be where you die and you go Valhalla, but you're not ready to be dead yet. That's kind of what you're told.
Very interesting. Yeah, so the hunters are actually, I have to admit, now when I first started my hunter quest line, I had done like the first quest for the 2 weeks prior. I missed the second week's quest. So when I started up with Legion, the first thing it says is, oh, you must witness the teleportation of Dalaran uh, to above Karazhan. And so I'm, oh, okay. And as I'm running there, all of a sudden Karazhan just takes off. Or I'm sorry, Dalaran just disappears. And I start falling through space. It was like a total glitch. And I fall and fall and fall, and I hit the ground and I die. And I'm like, well, that was dumb. So it would respawn me right at a graveyard. So I said, okay, resurrect me. And I'm back on Dalaran again, going, is it going to disappear on me again? Is it going to take off? Because I watched it literally take off through space as it left, and here I am falling. But anyway, that was just an interesting story with
Now
the
you got me
start.
nervous. I left my mage in Dalran to see what would happen.
Well, see, and I was sitting in Dalaran, so it's possible. So be prepared.
At
Um,
least I can feather fall on that tune. But hearing other people's stories, though, makes me think that's another way that when we start playing alts, we're going to have a different experience of the game, right? You're going to, some things will be the same, some things will be different, and I think that's going to really enrich the experience for people who are, leveling alts like we have a tendency to do.
oh, I totally
Yeah.
think so because I have a tune of every class. I know Joe Bowie does too. and I'm looking forward to every class hall getting to it for the first time. Because the Hunter class hall really is very cool. It's like a hunting lodge. It's actually up in High Mountain, in the Broken Isles. One of our raid members, Belladonna, actually tried to bring, because there's a path up to it, she tried to bring her paladin up that path, and she literally got almost inside, and then it just booted her right back. It just like
Yep.
kicked her way out in the middle of nowhere.
I'm like, I'm
So,
trying to explore this area. Why did you kick me out?
right? So it's actually like a hunting lodge. It's very cool. When you walk in, the outside you've got your archers practicing at their targets, shooting targets, and then you got a big bonfire going, and you go inside this big lodge, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Yellowstone National Park Lodge, but it looks very similar to that. You walk in, and there's a big forge, big flat piece of granite that's where your artifact weapon is done. You go to your right, and you've got this big uh, hide tapestry of the world, of Broken Isles, that you pick where you want to go to. There are mounts and heads of all the famous bosses and beasts on the walls. I mean, I spent the first 20 minutes in my class hall just looking at everything on the wall, going, "Ooh, I've killed that, and I remember that boss," because it's got like dragon wings in the corners, and I mean, it's very, very beautiful on the inside. I'm a hunter myself, an actual real life hunter, so I totally get the whole heads mounted on the wall thing. Other than, my wife says we won't have any dead animal heads in our house. I just go to my class hall now.
Yeah,
It's like a vicarious man cave.
Yes.
yeah, it sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to see like some of these other class halls personally. Like a pistol, or like you were saying, and like checking these out, because they all sound so very different. And I didn't mention the mage class hall is actually in Dalaran. It's the tallest building in Dalaran. In fact, we have a balcony porch where we can like go out onto and like look out over
Ah,
over the town.
Oh,
have a mage
nice.
latte.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're way up
mages.
high. Yeah, I mean, kind of looking down over. Oh, here's our magical city of Dalaran. But it sounds like all of them have like, because I know that they were planning on having us feel like we were more a part of our class as opposed to just a character in the overall story, and it, really emphasizing the whole like class aspect of it. And I think the class halls add to that because I mean, like you are Fafford's identifying with his hunting lodge in the middle of the mountains, and I'm digging on my tower of magical awesomeness and all that. So it seems like it's really kind of tapping into those things, like her nature thing, with the druids and all that. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to expect when they first announced the class halls. I'm just picturing everybody in this big hall, because I think that was one of the screenshots they showed. So I was just totally like, wow, when I got to my class hall, and from what it sounds like, I can't wait to try the other ones on my other tunes.
I would say that Pally is, of all of the ones I've been hearing about, probably the least sort of interesting. It's beautiful. It's well designed, well laid out, but it's more sort of beautiful and functional. It does what it should do. Whereas others, I'm looking forward to see. Now, as we're talking though, I'm wondering that sense of being part of a class. How long until they start to create some kinds of quests for everybody when they're all at 100?
110.
And there's kind of a shared experience of people all together in class hall.
Hmm.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. So, artifact weapons and their quests, the mechanics behind it. What did you guys think of that? Let's start with Lorelei.
I've enjoyed that because it really seems like you can make the weapon whatever you want to make it. There, I've been looking at a suggested path to take, and I think I want to go that way. But I'm off of that right now because I've been putting a lot of points into something else. But it's interesting that my weapon isn't going to be what the next warrior's weapon is, and I like that.
What do you mean by that?
I can choose to take a different path if I want to. I can, the transmog, you can make it look different. when you, I think you have to get all your pillars before you start opening that up. And we're all not running around with the same weapon that looks exactly the same, that's doing the exact same thing. And I may think, well, maybe I messed up and I'm putting too many points in this or that, or I should have taken something else. But I can make my weapon unique to what I want to do. And I think that that's really an interesting thing.
How about Epistle?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like I want to know what the theory crafters are going to say, because from a tanking perspective, I want to make sure everything's all, optimized for tanking. But I know I prefer to be a high DPS tank as much as possible. I know Tap doesn't like to hear that, but hey.
Well, how about Tap? What do you think of your artifact?
I really like it. It's a piece of the world tree. So it's, and like Lorelei was saying, you can make it look any way you want or do what you want to do, create your own path. It's really neat to put the relics in and to see my tree grow, not my weapon per se, but where we put our relics in. And right now you can change a couple colors, but I'm really looking forward to being able to change what it looks like as well. It's a really great concept, and I know I'm going to enjoy it immensely.
Joe Bowie.
Felomorn and the Heart of the Phoenix, I think is what it's called, the offhand. I was a little skeptical at first because for as long as I can remember, I've been a staff wielder. I've had a staff on my mage for as long as I can remember, and with this, it's a one-handed sword and an offhand item, and the sword itself is beautiful. I like the transmog that it starts off with, and I really like some of the transmogs that are available for it later, although I'm a little upset that the coolest one, the one that I like the most, is PvP, and I tend to not PvP much. But it's really neat. I really like it a lot. One of the things that I've really appreciated about the way they've done the artifact is, as I've been questing through and going to different zones, I've run into various people who seem in awe of the weapon, and they talk to me about it. And in fact, I've actually seen like dungeon bosses have vocal content where they mention something about one of the people's artifact weapons that they're carrying. They're like, "What is this druid carrying? What is that you wield?" Kind of thing. And they're saying that like during the fight, which I thought was pretty awesome. And it's just neat, like there's people that have, NPCs that say, "Hey, can I look at that for a moment?" And then they talk to me about it, and I learn a little bit more about my weapon, and it seems to have a story, whereas I've never really had a weapon in the game that felt like it had a story. Well, I had Dragon Wrath, which, that was a legendary weapon and all that, which of course had a story in getting it and building it up and all that, but it didn't feel like when I had it that the world knew it. And in this case, they've made it so that the world is aware of my weapon, which is pretty cool. It makes me feel like I've got something special, even though every other fire mage out there has it. So I think it's really, really neat, and I like the customization of it as well, so I can tune it how I want it.
A little tip for anybody who's doing the Pally quest, though: if you get onto the holy one and you've never got a holy spec, you can't complete it. I found out after the fact, after trying forever to heal somebody and purge something, and realized I needed to go get a holy spec and change things around. But oh well.
Oh, that's a good thought.
So as far as mages are concerned, you've always had a staff. Now you've gone to a sword. So maybe one day you'll grow up to be Gandalf, who can wield both a staff and a sword.
Yeah, possibly. I, you know, I think it's I think it's an interesting switch. It was actually a little bit. I was confused at first because, like when I saw the previews for the weapon for the mage, they kept talking about Felomorn, which is of course the sword, and they really didn't talk much at all about the Heart of the Phoenix, and I wasn't sure going into Legion. I was like, how am I going to get that? Where do I get the Heart of the Phoenix? Because I know that I get Felomorn, but how does that play in? And honestly, I feel like they should have done something a little bit more with the Heart of the Phoenix, because they don't really talk about that, my offhand item, at all. I don't recall reading anything or hearing anything or seeing anything that discusses the fact that I'm carrying around this other legendary item along with my sword, like nobody notices that. They just care about the sword. And I'd kind of like to know more about that, aside from just what the tooltip says. Of course, that's not very awesome looking either. It looks like a flaming bowling ball stuck on a stick. So it's not very cool looking.
Oh.
All right, so what I'm going to do, we're getting close to our time. I'm just going to combine the last couple of questions into kind of a one general overall discussion question. So the questions are what we were talking about was questing in the new Broken Isles area, and what you liked, what you didn't like, what was your favorite zone, maybe your favorite quest line, and maybe even for our listeners some tips or tricks about questing in the Broken Isles. So we'll start off with Tappuccino.
All right. First of all, I started in the Dream Grove, obviously, which is in Valshara. So I've pretty much done all of those quests there, and I went on to Azuna. They're a lot of fun. As far as questing here in the new expansion, I'm just going to go to each zone, finish all the quests, especially concentrating on my weapons quests, and I'm working on alchemy as well.
Do you have any tips for our listeners?
Tips for a Resto Druid is you do not have to go into a DPS spec to quest in the Broken Isles. Just make sure you have your Moonfire, Sunfire, and Wrath spells on your bar, and you can DPS at your desire. You can stand in your healing circle. You can use all of your healing spells to keep yourself alive, and it's really not a bad thing. It's a lot of fun, actually, to DPS as a Resto Druid.
So I actually have a question then for you. I really wasn't paying attention to any of the healers that were around me. So with the new questing experience, you can tag an item and then other people can help you kill it. Even the horde can actually help kill it. When you throw your healing circle down, have you noticed, are you healing those people too? Or is it just
I,
you're healing yourself?
I don't believe I'm healing anybody else. It only works in a party. So let me make sure. It says restores health to 300 allies within 10 yards. Doesn't say party members, so I'm not really sure. I'll have to keep an eye out
Yeah,
on that and see if I do see any numbers coming up from people, healing numbers.
yeah, that would
I,
be
I
That's a
can
good
interesting.
say
question.
I can say that I've personally been healed by healers that were at bosses who just, I don't know if they targeted. I know I've gotten some specific heals where they targeted me and hit me with a big heal during a fight. So I know that healers are out there healing other players because I've had healers do that for me.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I was kind of curious because I really haven't paid any attention. I've been running around. Every time we run around, we have a healer with us, so yeah, I never worry about it. But well, Joe Bowie, continue on. What do you think about the questing experience, and do you have any tips or tricks?
The questing experience has been phenomenal. I've felt that the story is very interesting. I've felt that the characters are really well fleshed out. I love the voice acting that they've added in so much of it. I can't even imagine how long they had actors in the studio to record all of this stuff. There's got to be thousands of lines of dialogue. Um, and like it seemed very emotional in parts. Where I felt connected to the story, and I was like interested in the characters in the story more so than in previous expansions. Just in the questing. I mean, typically that stuff in the past has been reserved for dungeons and raiding and that kind of thing, whereas this it feels like it's more involved throughout, not just me reading a little sheet of what's happening in this particular part of the story, but they're like talking to me and traveling with me and doing stuff with me, which was really, really cool. Um, I started out in Valshara, and I also went to Azuna afterwards. I'm 110 now, so I've also gone through Stoneheim and then into High Mountain. I have not finished High Mountain yet, and I'm also working on Suramar. Um, all the zones so far have been excellent. All the questing in the zones has been really, really cool. As far as tips and tricks, I would say the real key the tips and tricks I would give out would actually pertain to add-ons. One, I suggest everybody get the handy notes with the Legion treasures on it, because there are so many of them and they're all over the place. And while you're questing, it makes it a lot easier to like go out and pick those things up along the way. And of course, TomTom, to give you the little waypoint arrows, super helpful. And the other one that I've been getting into lately is Pawn, but I've been doing Pawn with customized stat weights that I've picked up from like Icy Veins and Noxic. I tend to go with the Icy Veins ones more than the Noxic weights, but I would say that those are pretty important, especially the Draenor, treasure hunting or handy notes. Not Draenor, the handy notes Legion is really, really useful. And I would say that would help anybody, especially with upgrading your artifact weapon as you go, because most of those treasures have a little bit of upgrade in them.
Yeah, I noticed that too, that as soon as you go find a treasure, it's always got like a 30 artifact power somewhere in there, right around 30 to 45, somewhere in there. How about you, Lorelei?
I've enjoyed all the areas that I've quested in so far. I started in Stormheim, and I enjoyed the little grappling hook that they give you so that you can get up the sides of mountains, get to the top of ships. That stays with you, so you can go back anytime you want to and use those. And I did High Mountain second, and I'm in Valshara right now. I'm doing the same thing. I like to complete an area before I go into the next one. I really like having WoW Pro Leveling Guide, because then I know I'm not going to miss any quests that might be hidden somewhere. They've got it set up for most of the areas except for Stormheim. I think that'll come out this week, I'm hoping. So I think I found all the quests, but I'm not quite sure. And without it, I'm kind of running around blind.
Epistle?
I started in High Mountain. I'm doing the whole thing prot. Went to Stormheim, sort of the opposite of Lorelei's beginning, and I'm finishing up just about to 100 in Asuna. My plan is, as soon as I level, is to wear about professions and maybe get into instances at that point. I'd agree about what's been said about handy notes. In fact, I started in High Mountain, went to Stormheim, and if I look at my maps now, I can see all the ones I missed in High Mountain, and then Stormheim is pretty thoroughly covered. It's a small side trip to get a chest, if you know where it is when it's nearby. And I probably leveled my weapon quite substantially because of that. I've just got that much more the resources I need for that. But before I even started questing, I'm a EIB UI fan, so I had to have all my hotkeys set up and my screen looking just the way I wanted before going. So I really minimalized the screen effect, and with a new machine that I've got, I'm really getting a beautiful view of the whole thing. I'm also trying to slow down. Hard to do in all this new exciting content. Trying to slow down in the sense of covering everything, but also when I stop wanting to read quest text, that's usually a sign to me to go take a break, do something else, shop for school supplies, whatever it is I need to do, just so that when I come back and fresh, I want to be able to read the quest. Because I've got to say, I love the grappling hooks in Stormheim, like Lorelei, that was fantastic. But there's a place on the east of High Mountain, which was my absolute favorite quest series of all. And if you've done the Murloc series where you become the quest giver, I'll say no more than that. That to me, I was just laughing out loud and thoroughly enjoying questing. And if I'd been trying to hurry, I think I wouldn't have enjoyed the moment as much.
Yeah, so I started off in Azuna, got about halfway through. My wife and I were running around, and then we got together with a group of 6 or 7, and we went up to High Mountain, and I got about halfway through that. Then my daughter came in, and we went back to Azuna. So I haven't completed any area at all yet. I've been bouncing back and forth. I haven't seen High Mall. I'm looking forward to the other areas, though, heavily. So that leads me into my final and last question. We're going to see who is the overachiever in this group. What level are you at right now with your tune? I am currently at 102, 103. Lorelei?
I have 6% to go to be 108.
Pistol?
I'm 76% to 110.
Good.
Tap?
I'm 29% to get into level 106.
And
Now,
Joe
who's the
Bowie.
keener?
Yeah. I'm 110. Been 110 for a few days, and I guess so. My progression at this point is I'm currently up to an item level of 812, and working through world quests and dungeons and the Suramar level 110 zone. So yeah, I've gotten pretty far, but I feel like for those of you who are worried that you hit 110 and that's it, you're done. Mm-mm. There is lots more to do when you hit 110.
Good to know.
Well, it's nice to
Awesome.
have you as a information bank too there, Joe Bowie.
Yeah, I try.
Yep, I love it too, because he'll hop on and I'm like, I don't understand this, and he explains it to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. He's our WoW encyclopedia. I love it. Well, guys, thanks for coming. This has been a really exciting episode, I think.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for having me.
Yeah, it was a
Good
good
catching up.
episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm loving that we have so much new stuff to talk about.
Yes, and Tap, thank you for the lovely song.
You're very
Yeah.
welcome. Did
See
it without
y'all.
a few beers too.
We'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Until next week.
If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.